Hello, everyone. You are listening to the C Squared podcast with Corey and Curtis. We are here today with Sean Frasier, owner of Wise Blood Records and writer for Decibel magazine, all around metal extraordinaire, obviously. And he's going to be dropping some knowledge bombs, as we always do on this show. So first, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. We are super happy to have you here.
Thanks for the invite. It's awesome. Curtis and I have exchanged, it's got to be hundreds of emails at this point. So it's kind of nice.
That in no way surprises me. Like, not even a little.
Yeah.
Probably hundreds just this week, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, there's a bunch in there, and it's like one of those things where, as a writer, I want to help everybody. So it feels bad. I was like, man, it's been a couple months since I worked with Curtis. So like, I gotta get back to him, you know.
Yeah, I definitely know how you feel. But for anybody who doesn't really know your history, your resume, what you're about, do you want to just give like a brief intro of who you are, what you do, your work with your label, your work with Decibel, just like the short condensed version?
Sure. Yeah. Back in 2013, my New Year's resolution was to sort of rekindle my interest and passion for heavy music. I was just kind of leaving a depressive episode, and my goal was to just create a blog, write every day for 30 days, just be disciplined about it. And at the end of 30 days, I'd have, a little bit of a portfolio that I could go and share with other websites and print magazines, which is my favorite medium. So it was called Mr. Growl, and from that, I sent it out to pretty much anyone I could think of, and the first and only yes I got at the time was from Decibel. And they gave me a shot pretty much right away. Like issue 105 in 2013 was my first one, and I've written in every issue since, including the new one, number 200, our 200th issue. I have the cover story with At the Gates for that one.
Nice.
So I feel very loyal to Albert, the editor-in-chief at Decibel, and their whole staff, including Andrew Bonazelli, who was managing editor at the time. But yeah, through that, that sort of made me interested in the business side of music as well. So when I lost my job in March of 2020, related to the pandemic.
Oh, wow. That's so rare that happened.
Yeah. It kind of was like, well, I've never had the time or the energy to do this. So maybe this is the time. The money was the scary part, financing a venture like a small boutique heavy metal label. I'm probably not gonna be raking in money out of the gate. So this is sort of started from the uncertainty of the pandemic, and I'm really excited about what's ahead for Wise Blood Records.
Yeah, as shit as the pandemic has been, there have been a lot of really exciting ventures that have come out of it, and a lot of people seem to have been finding their true passions within all of this extra time that we've all had. So it's quite nice to see people taking a bad situation like learning or like losing a job and turning it into a learning experience of creating your own label. That's just super impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, that was sort of one of the themes of the cover story I wrote for Decibel 198. That was a year without shows. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard finding a silver lining, in the past year. But for me, it was a really hard reset. I was with the same company for 13 years and worked my way from being an overnight dispatcher to vice president in the corporate sector. And I was just dropped like it was nothing, Wow. So out of that sort of capitalist purgatory, that I was sort of feeling, I was like, well, it's inevitable that I'm going to have to make money for other people along the way, but I would really love to turn my focus and time and resources to helping local and regional music grow. And in the process, maybe I'll have like a really humble living, in the business side of music as I grow.
So question then, so you're still doing the label full time in Decibel, is that correct?
Yep. Wow. So I am, Decibel is a part-time job. And it's the best possible part-time job. Like he's really the only boss I've ever had that I have felt was like really looking out for the interests of the whole staff. It's a lot of mouths to feed. We have 40 writers on that staff, so it's like hard to make sure everybody's happy. They have certainly taken care of me, and I've done a lot of cover stories over the past 3 or 4 years. But yeah, so I do that. I bartend also part-time. Just got back to that for the first time in 13 years. So that's, last time I was doing it, I had a mohawk and a handlebar mustache. So things have changed a little. But yeah, the separate thing, the Wise Blood Records is definitely like, whenever I have free time, I suddenly don't, because it all goes to the label.
Cool. Just trying to clarify how much time you're putting in. So when you started it, how much upfront cash did you have to put into it? Like ballpark figure, like just so people kind of get an idea of what you need to do funding wise for a label.
Mm-hmm. It was about $2,000. $2,000 for me. Just to kind of get like started, I know I didn't want to really cut any corners. I wanted to have the LLC. I wanted to have a decent website. I wanted my Bandcamp presence to be really strong, because that's how I find a lot of unsigned bands. That's how I think a lot of people do. So I wanted a label account on there. So the bands assigned with me get those perks of having like a pro account on Bandcamp. And then there's all the other stuff that you don't even think about, all the packing supplies. It is not necessarily a glamorous role running a label. Yeah. It's a lot of like finding, like which is the most handsome envelope that I can send.
Totally.
Finding the sexiest cardboard box to put merch into.
Oh yeah! Ooh. I'm like, oh, this is pre-perforated.
Oh my! Is this pop-free bubble wrap? Oh my god!
Yeah. When I got these black bubble mailers, that was like a whole new world, and I was like, now people can pick it out.
That's where it's at, right? That is classic. That you drink your tea with your pinky out, don't you?
Oh, I feel very good putting those out. And I do like little personal touches, like I put a wax stamp on a thank you note for every single like first time order. So, and I'm personally there, so there's nobody else to do it. So it's just me in my office, dripping wax, like very slowly, but they're worth it. So
you started that, you actually did an LLC in the whole 9 yards. You're an actual real label. You're actually doing like, you're setting up as a company. So what other kind of things do people that are going to start a label have to look out for, in your opinion? Like what kind of things are they going to forget about?
Well, the biggest thing is you have to build in extra time for shipping and receiving, products. I'll say product throughout this interview, and it makes it sound like very white collar, but I hope you know what I mean, like the sellable stuff. The music itself is art, but the merch is the product, basically. But yeah, I mean, you saw this past year, it really showed how fragile the vinyl industry was. Like one plant burns down, and then all of a sudden, another one goes out of business, and people are backed up months and months. So really having your fingers on the pulse of what you can realistically expect for turnaround time. I know that if I order CDs, I'm going to get that shit quick. That's going to come to me in under a month, probably 3 weeks. CDs are easy. CDs are fast. A cassette, it's going to be more like 6 to 8 weeks, if you want that. And vinyl, we haven't even dipped our toes into vinyl, which I love that medium. But if you miss the mark on a release with vinyl, you're that's $2,000 right there. You know,
Yep.
forget about the setup cost. That's like 2,000 just to have like a minimum of 100 records, pretty much.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
so I would always be careful, like when you're planning out your schedule. I am totally a spreadsheet nerd, and I love that stuff. I love project management and organizing. And Curtis is like laughing because he's like, "Oh yeah, how organized were you when you were late on my last premiere?" But
I'm just laughing because well, actually, Corey does the same shit though. That's why I'm also laughing. I'm like I'm the only non-spreadsheet nerd here, and I'm just laughing at you two because you guys are both so organized. Anyways, go ahead, Chuck.
Spreadsheets, without them, I would die.
Oh yeah, no, I love that stuff. And you know, I'm a type of guy, when I have a band I'm interested in, I have a PowerPoint ready to go of, you know, like these are our last 3 or 4 albums, these are the sales we had, this is the reach. So I have all these numbers and all this data that I think impresses them, because you know, you meet all sorts of people in this industry, and a lot of people either don't have the time or the inclination to be organized in that way. So I think, if anything, that's where I saw my role, is like maybe I can help people manage their rollout of their album and get them more reach, which is something, I mean, you both do as a writer and as a publicist, as a PR elite tier PR guy. So
Elite tier, yes.
Elite tier. I don't know. I'm not very well organized. Ask Corey. I'll remember things at the last month. God shit, I'm supposed to do that for tomorrow. Fucking
but it gets done. It gets done.
Did we ever do this thing? I'm already on it, Curtis.
Yeah, no, I know. And then I'm like, oh fuck. Anyways,
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of like organization and planning your schedule and stuff, just flipping onto the other side of what you do. I know that it's very different writing for a blog versus writing for print. I write for a blog, obviously, so everything is very in the moment, but writing for print, you have to plan everything out. And if a band is pitching you, what are the key differences between pitching for the blog versus pitching for the print magazine?
Well, I have to say off the bat that I don't schedule a lot of the stuff for print. A lot of that goes through Albert at Decibel. He's the boss. You know, that's his baby. And I think what a band has to understand when it comes to print is every page, that's money. You know, that's money, and there's a finite amount of space with page count and word count and all that. So it is a really valuable commodity to be in the print magazine, and it's not personal if they're not selected. There's only so many reviews that are going to be in there. There's only so many profiles, you know. So don't take it personally if it doesn't work out. It's timing. What can you do if you're up against, you know, At the Gates announcing a new album? You know, it's not going to be your month for the cover story. That's all. So I think being able to gracefully receive bad news or a rejection is crucial for a band, because we're going to face rejection all the time. It's just you know, you're not going to be a good fit for every venue. So for print, I would say also you got to get out there in front like you got to get out there like 2 months in advance at least, you know, and pitch for print stuff. Because like you said, you know, this At the Gates cover story they just announced, I turned that in probably 6 weeks ago, you know, and now it's announced. So yeah, I've been holding on to these secrets for so long, and that's just like that's the print for you. But when it comes to a blog, I still book up 2 months in advance, and that's why I apologize to Curtis like on a regular basis, because I'm like, you know, I'm really sorry. I'm booked up until, like, right now I'm booked up through the end of June. You know, and there's probably a lot of reasons. Maybe I'm easier to get in touch with than some other people. You know, I think some other writers, it's their prerogative, but they don't really like to be contacted on, you know, maybe social media about covering stuff. They want that divide between professional and personal life. And I get it. Like that's not me. I'm pretty accessible, but I would just say trying to send out your album 2 months before release is kind of what I would suggest. With my releases right now for Wise Blood, we're doing it 6 to 7 weeks, because in a lot of those campaigns that I'm handling myself, I already have my targets. And I know if I get 1 or 2 early, that I can like take it easy and find the right person to like stream a full album. So I think that's the main thing, is understanding the scheduling. You can't hit up a writer, the week of and say, hey, can you do this video for me? It's going to feel a little disrespectful of their time. Because this is a lot of these people are doing it. Maybe they're getting paid like $10 a post, maybe, and most of them aren't. And so, if I could also have a word of advice to writers and bloggers, like, you don't owe any band or label coverage. You don't, and I feel that because I've been on both sides, but sometimes life is just so wild and your time is your own. And as I get older, I think time is my most precious commodity, like, for sure. So yeah, you don't owe the band's coverage, and hopefully the bands understand that it's not personal. There's just, time is a finite resource. And that's what it comes down to. But by at least taking your shot, maybe you warm them up for next time, and maybe they'll remember you. Leave them with a good impression. And that's kind of like a tip I give the bands that are on my label. Like, if someone says no, you got to thank them even harder than if they said yeah, so that they remember you.
I agree. One thing I do want to point out as well is that a lot of times writers will not respond, and that Corinne's always fond of saying that no response is a response too. Just as a tip for anybody listening, how many times would you say would be good for you, for a band or a publicist to follow you up? Like, how many times is too many times, and when is no answer an answer for you personally?
Well, first of all, I never begrudge somebody taking their shot. I respect the hustle, and I'm always very polite if I say no. But I would say one follow-up is plenty. And a lot of times I don't even see those, because honestly, I get 50 to 60 promos a day in my email, so it's just a numbers game. As stuff comes in, I'll kind of take a look at, the label, the publicist, a couple for fans of or genre tags. And if I'm in the mood for it, I'm like, okay, I'll star that, and the next time I'm doing label stuff and I'm just like filling packages, I might be like, all right, let's go through the 3 or 4 that I tagged, that I starred today. And that's all I have time for. I'm missing a lot of awesome music. I know it. But I can't lose sleep over it, because I'm also hearing some great stuff.
And you only got, what is it, once a week that you do your blog posts? It's only once a week, isn't it?
Yeah, now it's once a week. It used to be every other week, so that was really tough. But yeah, once every Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning, I premiere something at Decibel, and 80% of the stuff is things I picked personally. Every once in a while, it's an assignment down from Elbert, and sometimes it's like a last minute favor. But almost always it's something that I like personally curated and sought out and said, yes, this is my taste. I would love to represent this and share it with the Decibel readers.
Makes sense. I just wanted to point out the once a week, because that means you're only doing like 48 posts a year that you can actually cover. So that's not ends in the grand scheme of things, plus print stuff. Or did you have a follow-up on that before we go on the next one?
Just one that you've asked me, and we've asked, like Greg and stuff. What is the worst pitch you have ever received, or like just the most, what the hell was this person thinking?
I hope it was for me. Let's hear it.
It's definitely not from you, Curtis.
I hope so.
There have been some that just genre-wise, I don't really know how they got in touch with me, so I'll get like some country.
You get a lot of weird rap.
No, I don't get any rap.
See, I get a lot of weird hip hop, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, I don't know why we've missed out. Our Venn diagram doesn't include the people sending me rap. I don't know if you get country. I get some of that stuff.
I do not get country. I just
Okay.
get a lot of weird like rap and indie like alt rock that I'm like,
Okay.
why?
Yeah, I think honestly, the worst ones it's always a name. Like sometimes a band name is enough to turn me off on something. So sometimes either it's like too goofy or it's really dated or something like that. That's pretty much it. Like most of the pitches I get are just Holics promos,
Mhm.
most of them, and the ones that aren't usually go to my spam, and I have to dig them out. So yeah, I don't get a ton of personal, like really bad ones. The worst ones have a sense of urgency, and it's obvious there was not much planning into like the scheduled rollout of the album. Those are the worst ones.
Yeah, those are definitely frustrating. Where I get the promo the day of the release, and they expect me to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, you missed the train, man. I'm sorry. And it's tough because I understand from the artist perspective, they recorded this stuff in some cases 9 months ago. They just want it out there. But if you don't plan your campaign right, and Curtis, I know you can speak to this, you're releasing it to nobody but the people that were going to hear it anyway. To just your inner social circle. So you're not putting your album into a position to succeed when you do last minute stuff like that.
I want to ask though. So we talked about what's the best way to pitch you, other than what you said, the Holics thing. Like, if you got like, what would be like your ultimate? I will do this because this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, the writer, the big Decibel writer, he also writes for like Revolver, Jay Bennett. Once told me flattery gets you everywhere. So being familiar with what I've covered in the past and referencing something I've written is a great way to catch my attention. Just because it never hurts to know like, oh wow, I'm not writing just into the void. People actually read this. But that's a great way, giving me a couple genre or band references, especially again if I've covered them and they know like, hey, it sounds like we were talking about some black metal bands today, Curtis. So if we said it sounds like that band, I go, well, what do you know? I premiered them last month. What a coincidence.
And I had forgotten you premiered them. I totally forgot. I was going to look for who to pitch at Decibel, and then you fucking just email me out of the blue. And I'm like,
right.
I forgot all about it. That was funny. That was perfect.
But I think that's being informed. Being informed, talking to the personalizing your pitch is like the biggest thing. It's like you approach it like you're doing a cover letter for a job. When I'm doing my PR right now, our label's new. So every single email I send out is personalized in some way. Usually it's just the couple first intro sentences. But if they worked with me before, I thank them. If they haven't, I do a quick intro. I mention something they've done I liked. It's not just like robo mailing people out.
I have to do that a lot of the times just because of what I got. But I mean, oh my God, that must be time consuming. I remember having to do it like that.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the sheer volume of what you're handling, Curtis, I don't expect that, but you do that, I'm sure, when you're asking for specific premiere dates.
Oh, for sure, oh fuck yeah. I will not robo, not on that, not unless I'm like the desperate mode, like you and Corey were just talking about. Then I might, who do I just blast it out to, right? So
who can I find on Twitter?
Who can I find on Twitter right now? Is Sean still there? I think we just lost Sean.
I think we've lost. Is he?
Nope,
no, he's coming back. Maybe potentially.
No, he's frozen. Let's see if we can get him back. Because I got a killer follow-up question to that once we get him back. But Corey, while we're waiting, why don't you to go over what your how you like to be pitched just momentarily, since while we're waiting for him.
Usually just by email. Social media will probably get lost for me. Just my Facebook, it'll go get filtered to requests. Instagram, it'll get filtered and I won't see it. Twitter can be okay, but I don't always get those. I don't get to DMs as fast as I do emails. Emails I will get to faster and I can keep track of them easier. So I prefer email.
Sean, you mentioned you don't mind being pitched on social media. So what, like, can you kind of like clarify when a band should try to get you on social versus when they should go after email? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I always prefer email. Because I just don't like being on somebody else's time, and having them like hinge on response. But if someone takes their shot, it's going to guarantee a response, which I almost feel bad. I wish I wasn't saying that, but I'll probably respond faster with a message. You got to be tasteful with it, and you can't hammer me with questions. That is I got a lot of stuff going on, so it really is just like I will entertain like a one message like, hey, and again, it better be personalized. I get a lot of just like a link sent my way, and I will ignore that. I have the same kind of rule with that as I do submissions to the record label. If I feel like it was just a copy paste job, I don't think they have earned a response from me necessarily, because I receive submissions every day. But if they put in the effort, I had to unfortunately reject someone's pitch this morning, and it was an awesome pitch. They used my motto to open it, and like nice. Why the label's values meant something to them. They referenced a band on the label, so they were keeping track of what I'm releasing. They did everything right, and it's just not the right timing and not the right sound for me right now. So that it's tough. I want to say yes to everybody. I wish. I always think like the super wealthy aren't doing it right. If I was rich, I would be having such a grand time putting out like weird, obscure Swedish death metal like all the time.
Oh my gosh. Curtis and I have had this exact conversation about what we would do if we were like multimillionaires or billionaires. We would just be funding so many bands. It would be ridiculous. There would just be this massive death metal wave for me.
Yep. Oh yeah. The wealthy wasted on the boring, unfortunately.
Right. None of them have a haunted castle. Like they're all living in their Southern California McMansions. And like, where is their castle with the questionable groundskeeper with a possibly horrifying backstory?
Oh, like, yeah.
So boring.
I agree. So now one last thing I want to talk about pitching here. So for both of you guys, I guess, since you guys are both journalists. So, okay. So if a band pitches you, they follow up, then they DM you on social media. Should they give up with you or just kind of like keep going? Sean, what do you say to that?
So they sent me an email. I didn't respond. So then they sent me a message as a follow-up.
They have not liked them or anything like that, or been weird. They just sent a polite follow-up saying, have you seen my email? Blah, blah, blah. Really want to get into Decibel.
Yeah. I would give the same advice for this as I would dating. Like you have to be able to know like when you have to walk away and the person's not interested, and that's just something that it hurts your pride a little bit, but I guarantee it's not personal. It's just time, and you're going to find someone who resonates with it more. And that's all I could really say about it is, if you're not getting a response, it's way better for you to put your resources into somebody else who will be more responsive, that's what, like 2 message max for me.
Cool. What about you, Corey?
It would probably be about the same. If after a couple of times I haven't responded, chances are it's just not resonating with me for some reason. And like we've pointed out previously, I have a day job. I also manage a band. I'm working like 1 billion hours every week. So I wish I could say like personally no to everybody just so they know, but I can't. And it's because it's just too much. There's too many things in my inbox, and either you've gotten buried or it just wasn't right. And there are a lot of other metal fish in the metal ocean. So, and there's nothing wrong with, I think, trying more than one author at the same publication. Like if it doesn't work for Greg, sometimes he'll throw me stuff. And if it's something that's not my jam, I'll throw it back to him. So, I mean, we all internally pitch each other as well. So just be aware that there's more than one option to get into a publication, but if you're not getting it with anybody there, try a different one. Because the more traction that you get elsewhere, the more attention you'll get from the big boys too. Because if everybody starts talking about your band but Metal Injection, we're going to be like, wait a minute, what are we missing?
Sean, just as a quick question on that, so just to clarify, because when a band pitches you directly or a publicist, you have to get the final okay from Albert still for the blog, or are you the last stop on it?
I'm the last stop for the blog. He trusts his staff people to cover stuff that is, that has like the extremely extreme in mind. So once in a while I get requests for like acoustic versions of songs, or maybe like a post-punk song that's like way closer to Joy Division than Cannibal Corpse. And how many of those am I going to do a year? Probably just one or two. I try to, stay dedicated to the genres that motor that magazine. And I do want to say, like, if someone is rejected by Decibel, like Decibel is like it's like a pretty high plateau, for coverage. There's a lot of awesome blogs with really thoughtful reviews, fantastic writers that are maybe a little more accessible. And there's nothing wrong with staying there, and all the writing community is pretty well connected. So I follow a lot of my friends that write on blogs like, Cave Dweller or Ghost Cult, that might have smaller followings, but it's great coverage. So I discover stuff all the time from those other blogs, because we're all voracious readers and fans of new music. So, maybe I'll get around to liking it for the next one, just like, so there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with building with some smaller podcasts or blogs or anything. It's all good. It's all good.
All coverage is good coverage.
Yeah,
sort of.
Sentiment understood. Yes.
But I mean, like if somebody took the time to write about your band, even if they have 100 followers, somebody still took the time to say something nice about your band, and that kind of stuff. Even if it's small, it's still good to have, and it's still good to say thank you and show your appreciation.
Oh yeah, that passion. You can't put a price on it. For the label for Wise Blood. We have some fans that do YouTube channels, and they'll do like reaction videos for our stuff. And they buy almost everything I put out, and those people mean so much to me. So I'll always throw in extra things. I'll give them like wholesale pricing, whatever keeps them happy, because you can't buy that type of connection and passion from people. So I treat them really well. So I think bands could treat, the writers that cover their stuff like, you treat them like friends, because they are allies.
Totally.
Definitely. And you never know when one is going to graduate to a big publication too.
That's a key thing.
For sure.
Exactly. I got my start at Metal Injection, but most people don't. And so as they build up their portfolio, they're going to end up somewhere bigger if they've got that same passion. So hold on to those people as long as you can.
And I want to point out, you were rejected at Metal Injection for like, what, a year or something like that?
Me? No, not that long. It just took a few weeks of pestering.
Oh, okay, fine, whatever. We were supposed to.
It took a year before they actually let me start writing. I was their social media manager for a year. But it took
That's
me a year of going, hey, Rob, can I write about this? Hey, Rob, can I write about this? Hey, Rob.
There we go.
Until he finally said, fine, you can start writing about the bands that you like.
That's what
That's very freeing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got about 8 minutes left. So I want to round this up with questions for Sean. So like, if you're doing it all yourself, so how long did it take you to get a contact list up to do your PR and stuff? Because that's hard to do. So how long did it actually take you to like kind of work out a contact list? Because most labels suck at this. I don't know how you're doing it, and I'm assuming you're doing okay. But like how did you do this?
Well, my approach is a lot more targeted, to obviously, because I'm a music journalist, I have a lot of friends who are also music journalists. So,
True.
I don't want to lie and say this is just all my ingenuity. There's certainly a bit of nepotism at play here.
Of course.
But it's for the sake of good. So, I'm not going to complain. But, I definitely I'm in the express line, to a lot of these writers because they know me over time. And I've made a good impression. I've hit all my deadlines. I am pleasant to work with, so I have a track record of being easy to work with. So they want to work with me. And hopefully the next thing will just be, the quality of the releases starts to speak for itself. So yeah, I started with a really small pool of writers I wanted to target, and it's expanding. It's expanding more as I learn about YouTube, as I learn about podcasts, because those are weak spots for me.
Yep.
So I want to learn something new every week. Which I do because I listen to you. I listen to Matt Bacon. And there's a lot of wisdom out there. So nobody's alone with this. Like there are so many people that are eager to help you discover the resources to do this better. I had a lot of conversations with other label owners last summer when I was starting this, like Thomas from Redefining Darkness, James from Transylvanian Tapes. A few other labels were great, and they all said the same thing. Like you're gonna feel like you don't know what you're doing, and nobody does at the start.
Nobody at all.
No. So just like for me, it was just important to stick to my mission statement, which was to 50% of my roster will be local and regional at all times. And to stick with the bands and fans mentality, just keep both of them happy. And over time, the brand will grow if I just work with integrity. So yeah, I've just been targeting my list really carefully, and now it's starting to grow a little bit. But I only send out about 70 to 80 coverage requests to start. Oh, wow. And that's it. Yeah.
Well, wait a minute here. So 70 to 80 total, but those are all personal, you said, right? You're not using a Holix. Okay. Do you use Holix or anything like that, or it's just all of it's personal?
It's all personal right now, and Holix is in the plan for next year. Yeah, so Holix I think will make my job a lot easier. As I'm sort of learning all these tools that are out there at my disposal, I've realized like what I can save time doing just to put out a better product, and also I'm figuring out my schedule still because I'm trying to do one album a month from January through September, because those are the months that get considered for end of year coverage, and if you're after September, print magazines have already gone to the printer. So, and I'm going to use like October through December to just sort of plan for the next year. I have a new demo series I'm putting out, and that's just a series for new bands. That's like a smaller commitment, like 25 tapes and CDs, just to give them a taste of label, like a label exposure. But I'm not going to be putting the same PR time and energy into those albums. It's just going to be kind of like handling the financial aspect for the band.
I get it. Corey, did you have another follow-up before we wrap up?
No, not on that. Did you have a wrap-up question? I know you have
Well,
your
always-
I have a question face on.
I do have a question, but I wanted to ask Sean. So, number one, not number one. This is the overall question. What type of band should be submitting to your label?
Oh man, I have a whole list of like my very specific genres I love. But I will say I'm big, and I don't have a sludge band yet, or like a stoner doom band, and I really want one. So I'm waiting for someone to knock me out with a really good stoner doom, like Electric Wizard type album. So I'm waiting on that, and I just love. I'm not big into black metal, but I really like vampiric black metal because it like scratches a teenage itch for me. So if you have like candelabras and you're singing about Elizabeth Bathory, I'm probably going to be into that. So very
That's
specifically, please send me your demo if you're writing about Elizabeth Bathory.
And stoner doom.
And stoner doom.
What if it's
Cool.
stoner doom about Elizabeth Bathory?
Oh my God! Immediate signing. I know there's someone has a one-man project who's now gonna write that, and I can't wait to hear it.
That's freaking hilarious.
That'll be your first foray into vinyl, right?
Yeah, first vinyl guaranteed.
Yes.
It'll actually have blood inside the record.
Do it. I will buy that.
The one thing I just realized, Sean, we never brought up before we wrap up. Can you just kind of go over really quickly? You just released a song from Grave Ripper, I think it was. Was it not?
Ripper. Oh yeah.
Was it Grave Ripper? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about that for a brief second, and then we'll wrap up because we didn't.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Grave Ripper is this fantastic blackened thrash band. Reminds me of Skeleton Witch and Creator. They are right here from Indianapolis, where I live, and they played at the show where I proposed to my future wife. So their performance in that show really inspired me to sign them. And I can't wait to share that whole album with you, man. Both of you. I'll send it your way after this interview.
Awesome. Sounds good. Corey, you got anything else before we wrap up?
No, not for Sean. I do want to give a huge shout out to our host, Ghost Cult Magazine. They put our podcast on their site every single time we air it. They're awesome supporters of us, so I just wanted to give them a huge thank you. And
Awesome.
Curtis, any follow-ups for you?
No, I just want to say party on, Corey.
Party on, Curtis. Party on, Sean.
Party on.